Hello, good evening, and welcome back. It'll never be enough for these people. Extinction Rebellion protesters dressed as bees glue themselves to electric Lib Dem battle bus. Yes, misinformed, but nonetheless, they thought, hey, Joe Swinson said carbon neutral by 2045, that's not 2025, so even if they're our best bet, maybe Labour is, but not the Green Party, seeing as all the parties seem to be getting on board with the Green Caucus anyway. They thought, yeah, well, let's go for them as well, because it'll never be good enough for these people, will it? Extinction Rebellion protesters ambushed Joe Swinson's battle bus in Streatham, South London this morning. Some of the environmental campaigners dressed as bees superglued themselves to the bus's windscreen before it was quickly pointed out that the vehicle is electric. I guess they're grateful the glue wasn't that effective. Although superglue, for what it's worth, was originally made to heal up cuts. So if you have like a paper cut or a small cut, especially if it's on your fingers, that's probably where you get paper cuts, and it's difficult to put a plaster around it, stop other stuff getting in and catching on things, just super glue it shut. It acts as like an immediate scab, so it's very useful. So there might be a bit of good advice for you should you get those little niggling, annoying cuts. Back to the news. According to those at the scene, the Extinction Rebellion protesters are calling on the Lib Dems to bring their carbon neutral target forward from 2045 to 2025. What is the problem with carbon? Well, it means that the trees grow and plants grow, and it's easier to feed people, which is obviously a problem for whatever reason. And if you're thinking, well, what about overpopulation, not having enough food? So, well, yeah, okay, in that case, it still helps them. But for people who do think overpopulation is a threat, then considering some say that a third of our food is wasted, then no, the food really isn't a problem. And then if you think, well, actually, it's not overpopulation is a problem, we're not having enough children. So, well, yes, but then daughter of Albion, Sarah, did a good video on this, link in the description, check it out, that women in the Western world would actually like to have children. Just, I think it was 8% would not like to have children, but they're not getting the availability or support needed, seeing as the doubling of the labour market. Now they have to support these third world migrants to have their families in the West, in Britain, and in these developed countries. Then they are unable to fulfil their own life goals because now they're taking care of somebody else's family against their will, which is almost the definition of evil. Then you're slaving away for the sake of somebody else's family. That sounds very much like a slave-master relationship. And you want to be free to have your own family, but you can't. Back to the news. The environmental activists are targeting all parties calling for climate change to be front and centre of their manifestos during the election campaign. Now, understanding that you won't have a country to work with if you don't value other things, like maybe the economy, primarily of which just stay out of it. That's been the secret to success of all rapid growth countries. Just government stays out. For example, in Japan after the Second World War, they were limited by how much tax they could collect by America, thinking that, yes, well, if the government get too much tax, then they're going to grow too quickly and be able to spend too much. What happened to Japan, of course? Well, that was the miracle growth, wasn't it? They grew phenomenally quickly because the government wasn't taxing them to shit. So, well done, Japan. Yet another example in the annals of history. After some members of the group glued themselves to the bus windscreen, rendering it stationary, they had a chat about what needs to be done to save the planet. By all accounts here, despite the police being called, they said that it was... Business Insider reporter Adam Payne said the protesters and Lib Dem activists were engaged in very civil conversation about the party's manifesto. Yes, if you don't have diversity of thought, then it seems that they can actually get on quite well with you. So that's nice. Obviously don't disagree with them, otherwise you might get hurt. And they mentioned police have since been called to the scene. So, cutting greenhouse gas emissions, planting more trees and taxing frequent flyers were among the environmental policies challenged. The 12th of December election has been dubbed by some as the climate election in a year that has seen unprecedented and widespread protests on a global scale, with voters calling for world leaders to protect the planet. In that case, go to China, but of course we all know what happens if you do go to China to protest. You become fertilizer for next year's crop. I would say it's far more likely to be dubbed yet another Brexit election. Yet another Brexit referendum, if you will, third or fourth, depending on how you count it. But yes, this video was just to show how short-sighted these protesters are, and that nothing will be enough. They'll just think, well, there's going to be a problem because it isn't exactly what we want, therefore we're going to protest and just get in the way. So well done, Lib Dem activists, for what it's worth, to actually greet them in a more civil way, but seeing as Jo Swinson has to be there. I suppose seeing as she needs every vote she can't alienate these people at all. But then again, that shows what Extinction Rebellion really stands for. So, as always, let me know what you guys think down below. Always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. Do let me know. Looking forward to hearing from you. And until next time, have a good one.